James, it is truly a honor and privilege to have you here today, because I have to be honest with you, I've been a huge fan ever since Smithy and Comic Relief. And I was at the Grove just a couple of weeks ago, and I was remembering how that sketch started there.
Yeah, that's where we shot it.
Yeah, and you walk into one of the rooms and you're with and so I've been such a huge fan from day one, and watching you and admiring your journey, seeing you go crushing it from the UK through to the US. And, I moved to the US a few years after you did, but just getting to see the impact you had there, the amazing content that you've created. I'm a big fan of whether it's Spill Your Guts or Carpool Karaoke, like every single segment you guys produce, such a huge fan. And so to be able to sit with you, and even a few moments we've just spent together off camera, I've already enjoyed your company. But I wanted to start off by just saying I'm a huge fan, and thank you for doing this. So
I'm a huge fan of yours. I think what you've done is really quite extraordinary, actually. I really think, it's actually deeper than a successful podcast or show or book. I think what you've done really, and I'm sure I'm certainly not the first person to say this to you, is you've created like a safe place for people to talk about mental health, everything, you know what I mean? Feelings, the depth that I think is, of course, we're more aware of today than we were a decade ago, and certainly a decade before that. And I think you're a real big part of that. And I'm a real fan of the show, and it's given me a lot over the years. So it's a real thrill to be here. And I hope I can be deep enough to fulfill the needs required,
Well, for everyone who doesn't know, everything that James was saying to me off camera just now, I'm like, James, save it. I need you to say it again, because it was perfect. But James, I was thinking about this. I was looking at your journey, and I was saying, like, you went from writing, right? Gavin and Stacey, amazing success. Gone to the West End, amazing success. Broadway, Tony Award, amazing success. Then moving off into late night, amazing success. And there was something I was observing about you, and I felt that what I saw in you was someone who had the ability to continuously disrupt themselves, take risks, and innovate when it seemed like there was a clear path. And I wonder whether what's the decision you've made right now is almost the same thing, that you've said, I don't want the safe option, I'm willing to take the risk. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I think so. I mean, it's really lovely of you to say that. There's also misses in the middle of that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's very important to say that curve could also be looked. Do you know what I mean? There's as many misses as there is hits. You just want to keep that ratio as clean as you can. In the sort of last 6 months since finishing the show, and then the few months before that, when we announced that we were ending the show, lots of people would say, they would ask why you're doing this, and why would you leave such a thing and such a contract and offer and all those things, which I completely understand. I've always been able to separate work and life, and that the two, one shouldn't outweigh the other. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That actually you have to go, well, I know that for my career, Ruth Jones, who I co-wrote Gavin and Stacey with, which was a show that became successful in the UK, we could of course have carried on writing that show and making more episodes of that show, but I don't know that was at the time feeding our life. I wasn't feeding mine, it wasn't feeding Ruth's. It was like, we've done that, it's time to stop, we have to do something else. And then, I love being in plays, I love being in the theatre. And when I was in One Man, Two Governors or the History Boys, there was a path where you could say, well, I could carry on doing this, and there were moments or opportunities to perhaps go and do another play after that. But it was like, well, I don't know that that's going to feed my life. So I think the key from what I'm trying to do is go, well, if my work is feeding my life and my family, then it's of benefit. And if it isn't, then it won't be. And I think some people perhaps often just look at their career as being the primary thing in their life. Well, the work is the thing, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do that. And you have to go, no, but how is that feeding your life and your soul and who you are as a friend, son, brother, husband, father, and that's the thing I think I've always thought about. So the decision to end the show had nothing to do with not enjoying it anymore. It had nothing to do with it not being fun. Financially, of course, it was fantastic. But then it got to a point where it was like, is it feeding me and us as a family? Is this environment what we want now? I don't think it is. Okay, well then we're just going to turn it over and shake it and see what it is the other side of that. Yeah. The thing I keep coming back to all the time in my life a lot recently is just to constantly say, well, we don't know yet. We don't know. I don't know yet. I can't tell you if it was a good thing or a bad thing to stop the show. I don't know. I will only know in a year or 2 years or maybe 5 years' time, because you just don't know. You don't know at all. In the same time that you might accept a role over here, and when you get that job, people are going, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. And you say, well, we don't know. Me and my friend Louis, a very dear friend of mine, Louis, who moved to America to come and write on the Late Late Show. You know, uprooted his family, moved. Oh, he didn't have a family at the time. Had 2 kids in the 8.5 years we were there. We wrote a TV show together, which got picked up at Hulu. Oh, I wasn't going to be in it. We just created this show, and then a few months later, we wrote 2 scripts, and they really loved the first script. Then we wrote the second script, and they said, "Look, we're not going to make this show. It happens all the time." And I was really bummed. And my friend Louis said the best thing. He was like, "Look, if they'd have picked it up, it might have been the worst thing to ever happen to us. We might have fallen out. We might have, who knows what would have happened. It might have been a disaster. We just don't know."
Yeah. You have no idea.
You just don't know anything.
You've reminded me of this beautiful Zen story where a farmer finds a new horse.
Love this story.
You know the story?
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. The farmer finds a new horse and everyone's excited. And they're like, wow, this beautiful horse. You just came upon it. Like, how lucky are you? And he says, good thing, bad thing, who knows?
Yeah.
And then his son's riding the horse and he looks incredible. But then all of a sudden he gets tipped off the horse and his son falls off and breaks his leg. And everyone's like, oh no, this is the worst thing ever. Like, if only you didn't bring that horse in. And he says, good thing, bad thing, who knows? And the story continues. And hearing you say that, it's really honest of you to share that though, because I think sometimes when we make a decision, we often feel like we have to convince ourselves it's the best decision in order to make it through. But for you to actually have the vulnerability to say, I actually don't know, that takes a lot of courage.
Well, I do know that ending the show, I do know that the reasons for it are absolutely right, no question. But you don't know how those things will. You just don't know. You don't know any of it. So if you can accept all of it, if you can just say, well, this is it. This is life. What we're doing now, me and you sitting here. This is it. We're doing it. You're alive. And I think sometimes the expectation of stuff is the thing which really ruins stuff. Your expectation of what a holiday might be, your expectation of what Christmas Day was going to be like, is actually the problem. The thing that happened on holiday, or the argument you had on Christmas Day, that's not really the issue. I didn't have an argument on Christmas Day. I'm just using it as an example. That's the thing, I think, is your expectation of, well, when I do this, my life will be like that. And I think I think I've thought that a lot of my life. When I get my driver's license, my life will be like this. When I get a girlfriend, my life. When I move out of my parents' house, my life is going to be like this. And it's not. It isn't. It can't be. And what it is will be amazing because you're going to be alive, you know? Yeah. And I think I just feel very accepting of everything now at the moment.
Yeah. There's something really beautiful that came out of what you said, this idea of reasons over results. Like, you know your reasons. You don't know what the result will be, but you're sure about your reasons. And that's something we can all practice and take on. Like, I think that's something everyone who's watching can apply, that you never know the result of your decision. You don't know how it's going to pan out, but you can be sure about your reasons.
Without question.
And if you feel clear about those.
And to recalibrate perhaps what success is. And that's, I think, a big issue in a broader society. What is success? Success is not this amount of money. It's not this amount of gold statues and trophies. You know, you've got to look at it as a whole. It's really interesting if there are numerous people who talk about the night that they won an Academy Award as being the loneliest night of their life. And yet for us, looking in on that, you look and go, oh my God, this is incredible. I would give anything.
Why do you think that is?
Because I think it's more, the climb is the thing. The top of a mountain, I think, can be quite a isolating experience, actually. And the climb to the top of it is, and of course, when you get there, it's amazing because you go, oh my God, we did, you know what I mean? We did it. It's like someone that takes a helicopter to the top of Everest is not going to have the same experience as a person who's climbed it.
Absolutely.
You're looking at the same view, but it's going to feel very, very different.
For sure.
I also think it's an incredibly, you know, the anxiety of it, the fear of it. I can only imagine. I don't know. I can only imagine. And so I think that what you realize is that the doing of the work and the climb of it is the thing that is the most satisfying. And how can there be such a thing as best? Ever. You can be the fastest runner over 100 meters. That's not up for debate. Usain Bolt, you are the fastest runner over 100 meters. You can't be the best film. That's impossible. You know, it's
more subjective.
Yeah, of course it is, and should be.